dealing with 4 time zones.
Wow.
California time zone, Florida, which I believe is 3 hours different from California,
Oh
and
my,
then the Korean time zone, and then the New Zealand time zone. So sometimes I am confused, and
yeah, I don't
I
know.
have
That would drive
I
me.
have double booked sometimes.
I don't blame you, E. I think that would make me crazy if I had to think of all the time zones.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm getting better, and I don't know if you guys will have one more daylight saving time. So then I think it'll be only 3 hours apart when that happens. So then I
Okay.
have to get used to it, thinking about what time people's lessons are again. Because right now the majority of the people are obviously still in California, so I go with that main time zone, and then when I try to schedule people, I use that calendar, and then I try to convert it over to what it would be in their time, and then what it would be in my time.
I don't know how you do it. I mean, being in Scotland with Kayla was bad enough. The time zone was bad enough for me.
Uh-huh. All right. Anyways, it's good to see you, Cody, as always.
Hey.
So we always start the lesson with some review work, and each time we review the piece, we find more things to polish, right? We find more things to refine and more things to consider, right? Either technically or musically, and then we try to learn new things as well. So we did. Do you want to start with the Dr. Gradus?
Yeah.
Then you can do the Jimbo's Lullaby, and then we'll go on to the third piece in the Debussy Children's Corner. Okay?
Oh, nice. Ooh.
Off you go.
Ooh.
Good job. Well, I don't know if it happened on your end. On my end, in the middle of the playing, it froze. So I didn't hear the return of the main material. But it seemed like you played your heart out.
Dang. Oh my gosh.
virtuosic, right, at the end of the piece, which it was meant to be. Today, I think your microphone is a little bit more louder than
Oh my
the other
goodness.
times, and I've noticed that myself too. Sometimes, it's more sensitive than others, I guess, depending on the connection. So today the loud parts had a little buzz. Anyways, I think this piece really is quite the perfect piece, even just for warm-up purposes, right? Because it has a little bit of everything. The beginning is kind of technical, so it gets your fingers warmed up, and then it has the expressive part, right? So it gets you to think musically, and not just in terms of technique. And then by the end of the piece, right, your fingers are already warmed up, and you become quite virtuosic, right? So it's quite the perfect piece, even just for warm-up purposes before you get on to the rest of your practice. Some people practice scales as a warm-up. That's certainly not a bad idea either, right? Because it covers the big range of the piano. And this piece is like that too. It does cover, a lot of the notes at the bottom, which we normally don't get to play as much in some other pieces. So I think there was some weird notes in the beginning, right? So just do slowly. Or it could be just that you were not warmed up. Right here. Some of these notes. Right? Some of these notes were a little not quite as accurate. But
Oh
we
my
do know
goodness.
this piece, right? So I don't want to spend all our lesson on this.
Oh my goodness.
I like I said, I couldn't hear some of the middle part because the screen froze. But I really like how interesting and exciting, right, the last part was, and you really gave you everything, right, which is exactly what it required. So the final C, right, is about as triumphant as you can get. Now remember, jump up, right? Big gesture. Yeah.
Nice. Wow. Oh my goodness.
Froze again. I'm sorry. So it seems like today's not quite the best day for our internet connection. Okay, so let's move on, right? Now the Jimbo's Lullaby. Last time was when we had a detailed lesson on it.
Wow.
We ran out of time a little bit, so I didn't get to talk about the final part as much. So before you play the whole thing, I'll remind you that final part. Okay, so the final section kind of was the return, right? But it had two melodies combined in the right hand. Quite smart, right? It's like combining. I was supposed to hold that note, sorry. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, as I just played, right, I realized that
Wow.
you probably noticed it because you have very good ears. Did you notice my piano sounded just a little bit different?
Oh my gosh.
Did you notice?
Oh
You
my
did?
Heck yeah.
What did you notice about it?
It's a good piano, huh?
It's a good piano. Well, it is a good piano. It's
A
it's a
grand.
piano I've had for a very long time. This was
Oh
a
my
piano I grew up with since I was 5 years old.
Oh my
So it's always been in my mom's house, and so what is it? It's very old now, right? So it's a Yamaha U3 upright. So it's lasted a very long time, right? So I did most of my training on this piano when I was a student. Anyway, I had moved this piano just this weekend
Wow.
from the living room to a different room in the house.
Oh my gosh.
So I noticed that the tuning is a little bit out, right? So that kind of put me off. But after it settles in this room a little bit for maybe another month or so, I'll have the tuner come in and tune it. Okay, so just bear with the out of tuneness, okay?
Wow.
which is probably why today our internet is a little bit connection is not as stable. So maybe this part of the house doesn't get as good reception. Okay, but we'll try to make the most of it. Okay, so play the entire piece for me, please.
Yeah. Woo. Oh, there. Woohoo. Yeah. Oh, there. Ooh.
There you go. Right. Now that's just the final part that I played for you. Do you remember the beginning though?
Oh, the beginning. Yeah.
Yes, like the whole piece from the very beginning.
Oh, that's it. Woohoo.
But today I didn't remind you the beginning, right? I only did this final part because last time we didn't spend as much time on this final part. So I wanted to remind you of this part. But do you remember the piece from the very start?
Oh, yes. Huh. Woohoo. That goes. Woohoo.
Good job. Thank you. Right? So that is what I wanted to see how much you remember from the very beginning. And you did remember, right?
I did it.
So the final part, we'll still work on a little bit more.
Nice.
I noticed something now when you played for me. But before I talk about that, do you remember the word I told you about that this piece really focuses on?
Wow.
There's a particular aspect about piano playing that this piece focuses on. What was it? Remember?
I remember it, huh? Oh my goodness. I remember that, huh?
Was it technique? Does this piece focus on technique?
Technique, you're right. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Well, yes, of course, right? Everything is technique, right?
Everything's technique.
So in the big sense of the word, technique covers everything, right? So I probably should not have used that word. So let me rephrase it. There's a particular aspect, right? Was it about how fast your fingers can move? Do you think?
Wow.
Like agility, right? Does it focus on being able to like play fast passages very evenly and very accurately? Do you think this piece is about that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Dang.
The Dr. Gradus, right, had a lot of that, right? Especially in the final section, it got so fast, right? So that definitely is what we call more technical. But like I said, really, of course, the word technique covers a lot of aspect, not just fast fingers. So I didn't use that word, quite as accurately as I wanted to. But the aspect, right, that this particular piece focuses on is articulation.
Wow.
Remember that word now?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right? So articulation, right, is what? How do you describe articulation?
Articulation.
When it comes to piano playing?
When it comes to piano playing, huh? Ooh, that was fast, huh?
Yeah. Well, remember, Debussy is so specific, right, in this piece about how each and every note is supposed to be played, right? He's like pretty much a control freak in this piece, right? He doesn't leave anything to chance or to the performer's interpretation. Just about every note has about as specific of an articulation mark as it can get.
As I can get.
Right? So he was not, some composers, they just write down the bare minimum, right? They don't tell you everything. Here, he tells you very, very specifically, is this note a legato?
Legato.
Is this note a staccato? Is this note a tenuto? Right?
Tenuto.
So most composers, that would be about it, right? Or an accent, right? So each note would get perhaps one, right, type of articulation. But in this piece, right, that's not true. The majority of the notes have more than just one articulation mark.
Ooh,
So he combines them. So some notes are, if you look at the score, they have a overall legato line over them, right? So you see the overall phrase. But then each individual note also has like either a staccato or a staccato and a tenuto, right? Or just a tenuto, or a combination, right? Is what I'm trying to say, right? So that's why, and also not just that, but combined with dynamic, right? And very detailed dynamics too. And he doesn't always do what we consider the normal way, right? The normal way when you have a two-note slur is, right? So, in other words, first one louder, second one softer, right? So whenever we have a two-note phrase, that's considered the sort of normal, natural speech way, right? Like Kodi, right? So we emphasize, that's you. That emphasize the first syllable, right? So the second syllable is quieter. So that's kind of what we normally do. But in this piece, he sometimes switches it. So sometimes he does, you see? So he does the second one louder. Yeah, so you have to really pay attention to the score. So instead of saying Kodi, which is normal, right? The regular way, sometimes he has Kodi, right? So that one, is backwards, right? So the second one needs to be louder. You see? Anyway, so we talked a lot about that last week, right? So today I don't want to go into, all the details again, but I wanted to see if you remember that word articulation.
Articulation.
Okay? So articulation means once you know what note you need to play, right? You then need to think about the quality of that note, right? How it is to be produced, okay? So, it depends on how fast, right? Or how slow your fingertip goes down, right? And the depth, right? So you don't just do you just barely touch it or you go all the way down to the bottom, right? So the depth of the touch and the speed, right? That all contributes to the word articulation, okay? So let's go back to that final section. Now, because you learn everything by ear, right? You could hear that there were two melody going on. Exactly, but because you didn't see how I played it, you were doing, yes, what you heard. But you definitely heard that this lasted, right? This particular chord was supposed to be held. So I believe that you were so smart to use the middle pedal. Is that what you did?
Wow, nice.
You use the middle pedal to sustain that chord, right? So I guess that's a possibility, right? But could you hold on to this with the left hand? Okay, so the left hand is playing B flat and F, and then only play the rest with the right hand, which is much harder to do, right? But that develops the independence, yes, of the fingers. Yes. Possible. Yeah. Yes. That's what I would do personally, right? Now holding the middle pedal down, I guess like I said, it is possible. On this upright piano, I don't have the middle pedal, so the sostenuto, so I can't demonstrate it with the middle pedal. My grand pianos will arrive, I hope, in about a month time. Do you remember my pianos?
Oh my gosh.
You played on those pianos, right?
Those pianos.
Especially the kawaii, right? You played on that kawaii for years.
What?
So you remember that piano. Anyway, so this piano doesn't have the sostenuto pedal, so I'm gonna play what most people do, which is hold on to that with the left hand. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let me remind you this part better. So every time I play for you, right? Obviously I try to do my best, but sometimes I make mistakes. So, and when I make a mistake, you pick up the mistake too. So then you play it back to me the way I play. So I will play it again. Oopsie, that's the mistake. So earlier when I first played, I forgot to hold this F, right? I'll do it again. Was the louder version.
Wow.
Okay, so do that final part for me, please.
Ooh, that's it.
Good job. Okay. Now this is connected. Right? Those two notes at the end. Yeah, that's legato. Thank you. and play that last note as quietly as you possibly can, right? So, with the help of the saw pedal, of course. All right, so as I was saying, right, he explores, of course, the articulation, right, to the extreme, really, with this piece, right? Experimenting with combining different touches. So not just staccato alone, or not just legato alone, not just tenuto alone, but combining them, right? Also, he does, and this is quite rare, right? Use all three pedals in this piece too. So we have our regular pedal, the sustaining pedal, right? And we can use our soft pedal, of course, like that final note, and also the middle pedal, right, which you already were using, the sostenuto pedal, because he does say it, right? And even in the very beginning, he says use two pedals, right? So I don't know if you remember in the very first page, right? When after you do da, 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 that was the beginning. Both pedals, right? Both the soft pedal and the sustaining pedal.
Wow.
So that's very rare, right? Most composers don't even tell you where to pedal, right? They leave it completely up to you. Here he says use both.
Oh my goodness.
So he's very specific again, right? So by playing this piece, right, you get to try out all three pedals on the piano. As well as think about your articulation. Okay, let's move on. So the third one, do you remember what it was called?
Ooh, Serenade for the doll.
Good job, you remember. That's a while ago we did this, right?
Woohoo.
So we have not reviewed this piece for a few months now. We reviewed the first piece 2 times. We reviewed the Jimbo Lullaby 1 time. We did not review this piece at all, right, since I moved here. So the last time I heard you play this was months ago.
Wow.
So if I don't say anything, right, let's see how much you remember.
Woohoo.
Very nice. Your piano sounds beautiful on that high note, right? It's so crystal clear.
Wow.
Okay, well, that's amazing.
Dang.
Like I said, the last time I had heard you play this, and the last time that I had physically played it and talked about it was months ago, right? When I was still in California.
Wow.
And if somebody says now, ask me to play it, I could not do half of what you did. Especially without looking at the music, I would not be able to do it at all. But you definitely still remember most of it, okay? For sure. So this is a beautiful one, right? Because it really, Serenade of the Doll, right? What a cute little doll, right? It's just so delicate, isn't it? So some of the notes you sort of remember, right? Not as accurately as the other two, right? Which we had spent more time on already. So this is the first time we're reviewing it. So today we can find out where, right? You don't have what the notes are that Debussy wrote. Also, in the other piece, I think I talked about it last time, right? The final part of the Jimbo's Lullaby, he specifically says, right, to not slow down. So that's very unusual. Most composers, they don't tell us to slow down when we actually should be slowing down, right? So it's part of the rubato, part of the interpretation. But Debussy actually, in many places, specifically tell us not to slow down, right? So that's something to watch out for. So again, he's pretty much of a control freak in this piece. He tells you what to do and also what not to do. Not just what to do, but what not to do. In case people feel tempted, right? Especially in the Jimbo's Lullaby at the end. It's very tempting to slow down because you feel like the elephant is falling asleep, right? So it's a natural thing for us to do. But he doesn't want us to. Why? Because he already worked out, right, the slowdown in the music. It's built in already in the score. So he already made the notes longer, and he already gave us a lot of ties. So he already thought about exactly how long, right? So the notes are, and so the slowdown is built into the piece.
Wow.
In the Serenade of the Doll, there are places like that too, where it's very tempting to slow down, but he doesn't want us to, okay? Anyway, so why don't you start again from the beginning, right? So this time I'll stop you. I didn't want to stop you earlier, but this time I will, if I hear something that we can work on.
Wow.
It's very tempting to go right and wait for a second, right? But we actually are not really supposed to, right? So that's not easy to do, right? So let me say this, right? Sorry. So how can we get around that? So you gotta find this, right? So this is in the left hand already. I think it's part of the excitement. If we wait too long, that's it. Yeah. Oh, D sharp, right? D sharp here. So second time is G sharp. Left hand on that G sharp, right? So the right hand only does this, and the left hand does this. Right? I know it's a little far away for you, but try, right? So it's ultimately easier. Oh, no. I would like you to listen to play all these notes with the left hand. There is an easier way to play the first measure of that. Use the third finger to play the G sharp, and you hold it, and you play the thumb on the D sharp. So the first one, you can hold the G sharp. Listen, hold that with finger 3 of the left hand, and then staccato on the thumb. Can you use the thumb on that D sharp? Remember, listen. So left hand is 3, 4, 5, but in between 3 and 4, you can use the thumb to play that note, right? Use the thumb. Yes? Yes. So the right hand is actually just doing this. That's all the right hand has to do. So you can be consistent with that articulation. Thank you. Okay, here you can slow down. That's the first place where he says you may slow down, right? So and then come back there, right? So let's go from here again. And then you can return.
Wow. Ooh. Ooh.
Good. Oh, it's octave over, right? Octave here. It's octave in the left hand there. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that, right? So you played, I believe, all the notes, right? According to what you heard, but you weren't sure which notes are to be played by which hand because you're not seeing the score, right? That's okay. I will your eyes and tell you. So look at the right hand or listen to the right hand. So there's a pattern going on. So you always do play 2 notes, 2, 5, right? So actually 3, 5, 2, 5, yeah, 3, 5. So 5 and 1, 3, right? So well, 2, 5. So 2, 5, 1, 3. 2, 5, 1, 2. 2, 5, 1, 2. 2, 5, 1, 2. So everything 5 and 1, 2. Right? So you're playing this open interval of, you know, either a 4th or a 5th. Listen to just the right hand now. You hear? So that's all the right hand is doing. I'll do it again, slow motion. Okay. I did 1, 2, right? But a couple places I did do 1, 2. Right? I mean 2, 5, right? 2, 5 or 3, 5. So you could use either the second, third, fourth. Whatever it is. Yeah. Good job. Okay, so now what's the left hand doing? That's the left hand, right? So you have this 3-note chord, and you hold on to the bottom note, right? So do you hear the bottom note was held? Okay, your turn.
Wow.
Something like that, okay? I'll combine it slowly for you, right? Do you hear it? I'll do one more time, right? So. Your turn. Pretty hard, isn't it? Right? It's not easy, right? Especially finding that. is the melody, right? Let's just play the melody first. That's ultimately all we want to hear, right? But there's all the other things going on, of course. Okay, so I'm getting better myself, right? Playing with a few things. And of course you will too, right? Try that again, please. And try to focus on bring out just those notes, okay? Although there's many other notes underneath those, of course.
Wow.
Okay, so you brought out those notes, but I think you sacrificed the notes that were underneath. We cannot, right? We still have to physically play two notes everywhere. Two here, two here, two here, two here, two here, two here, right? So there's always two notes to be played, but we can only bring out one of those two notes. Yes, the highest one. Yes. Yep. But that there was one where you had to bring out both notes. So it was pretty much like quarter note. Right? But here, eighth note. You gotta bring out both of the eighth notes there. So I have to try to bring out that C sharp, right? This C sharp is not loud, but that one is. Right?
Wow.
The small difference, but actually big difference, right? So it doesn't seem like a big thing, but it changes the melody, right? That's the melody, not just quarter notes. Let's try it again. Your turn.
Nice. Ooh.
Make sure the left hand is playing C sharp. Listen to the left hand. Right? So the top note is always C sharp. So you're always playing C sharp, right? But there's a. Let me play that again, please. Okay? So this is not chromatic, but kind of a scale up, scale passage. All right, and then, right? And then. So it will be. There's another C sharp there. Yes, and then is legato there. Okay, so. You're broken, right? Let's listen to it first. So. It's very expressive. It's legato. Yes. Going. Have to be about as driest as you can be, right? So absolutely the shortest staccato possible.
Wow.
Oh, make sure it's the decrescendo version, right? So I mean E flat. So louder, softer, louder, softer. Okay.
Wow.
Yes, but without the slowing down. So. Okay, no rubato there. Again. Oh, everybody's short. Yep. Good. And it's a very long, deep innuendo, right? So we gotta play. And also make sure they're not together. See, they're actually one after the and you gotta try to be softer, which is very hard to do. So I'll play the first two quietly. Yeah.
Wow.
Did I hear this? Listen to the right hand. You have to hold on to the B flat. So actually hold on to the G flat and B flat. And then you gotta play those two notes again, and then right? They are so soft that you probably didn't hear it when I played it, right? But they're there, right? So right hand, right again, right again. Okay.
Wow.
Turn. Don't change the note. It is what you just played. So, see, you already played all the notes there. Simply repeat them, but one after the other, and then see, you're just using the same notes. Same notes. Here, it's different, right?
Wow.
Okay, so this is where he says no retard, right? It's so tempting and almost musically so, right, to do some retardando, but he says no, don't do it, right? So let's do it from here. Right, and then start again. Right here, right, sir? So those four measures is so tempting. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's so tempting to do something, right? But we are not allowed to. He says no, don't do it, right? You just gotta move on, right? Okay, so much detail. I remember now when we first learned this piece, because it's so layered, right? There are many notes that are, well, you know, the piece is in multiple layers that you have to bring out certain layers but keep certain layers quiet, that it was hard to do, right? So you're definitely getting better at that.
Nice.
All right, so to be continued.
Woohoo.
And I'll see you next time.
Woohoo!
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Woohoo! Oh my god.